All right, so you've got that demolition project coming up, toolbox open and everything, and then it hits you. Do I have the right tool for these nails and screws?
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, today we're diving right into what will cut through nails or screws from TigerFish Tools.
Great article.
Yeah, they're really good. We're going to figure out how to choose the right tool like a pro.
And, it's not just about brute force.
Right.
It's about finesse sometimes. It's
Yeah.
about knowing your materials,
Uh-huh.
the finish you're going for.
Yeah, it's like having the right tool is half the battle won, right?
Absolutely.
So this TigerFish article breaks it down into 3 main categories: snipping, sawing, and grinding.
Okay.
Let's start with snipping.
Right.
And yeah, it sounds kind of delicate,
Right.
but we're not talking about like little sewing scissors here.
No, not at all. Snipping is really about a surgical strike.
Okay.
You need to remove a nail head that's sticking out. You
Okay.
don't want to damage the surrounding material.
Okay, so picture this. You're trying to salvage a piece of vintage trim.
Right.
You don't want to wreck the whole thing just to get that nail out.
Exactly.
So what are our choices here?
So the article talks about 2 main tools for this: wire cutters and bolt cutters.
Okay.
And the key difference is leverage.
Leverage. So like using a longer lever to move a heavier object.
Exactly. Wire cutters are great for smaller fasteners when you need a clean cut.
Uh-huh.
Think electrical work,
Yeah.
jewelry making, you need that precision.
Okay.
Now, bolt cutters, on the other hand,
Yep.
those are the heavy hitters.
Okay.
They've got more muscle. They can chomp through thicker metals,
Yeah.
larger diameters.
So if wire cutters are a scalpel, bolt cutters are more like bolt cutters.
That's one way to put it.
I'll work on my analogies.
Sure.
But the article also mentions something about beveled blades and anvil cutters.
Yes.
What is that all about?
So with wire cutters especially, the blade type really matters.
Okay.
Beveled blades are good, but ideally anvil cutters are where it's at.
Anvil cutters.
Yeah, imagine an anvil, it's that solid base.
Right.
And the blade cuts against that,
Okay.
requires less force to slice through.
So less strain on my hand, which I am always happy about.
Exactly.
And the article threw in a little pro tip here.
Okay.
Longer handles on those wire cutters means more leverage,
Oh, for sure.
more power.
Yes,
So that's something to keep in mind.
absolutely. Think about if you're in a tight spot and you need to snip a thick wire.
Yeah.
Those longer handles save your wrist and your project potentially.
Right, because you can really put your weight into it.
Exactly. But of course, there's a trade-off.
There's always a trade-off, isn't there?
There is.
Does it?
Well, longer handles, you get the leverage, but they can be bulkier.
Right. It's like trying to parallel park a monster truck.
Exactly.
So when you're choosing between wire cutters and bolt cutters,
Right.
consider your workspace.
Yes.
Plenty of room to move around. Bolt cutters might be a good choice.
They might.
Working in a tight spot.
Mm-hmm.
Those wire cutters, those are your friends.
Absolutely.
So we've covered snipping those precision cuts for smaller fasteners.
We have.
What happens when we need to cut through the entire fastener?
Ooh, things are getting interesting.
That's where things get a little more sawdust flying, right?
A little more heavy duty.
Yeah. All right, so we've moved on from snipping those smaller fasteners.
All right.
We're talking about needing to cut through the entire thing.
The whole fastener.
Yeah. What do we do then?
Well, that's where sawing comes in.
Okay.
You got to cut through it completely.
So thicker nails, screws that are really jammed in there,
Exactly.
or even times when you need to separate materials that are joined together.
Yeah, you're not just taking off a protruding head anymore.
Right. This is a whole different ballgame.
Entirely different.
So this sounds like serious metal cutting action here.
It is.
Does this mean any saw will do?
That's where it gets a little tricky. You
Good.
can't just grab any old saw from the shelf.
All right, so what are we looking for?
You need a blade that's specifically designed for metal.
Okay, so put away the wood cutting blades.
Absolutely. Put those aside.
What else?
We're talking at least 10 teeth per inch for a good clean cut.
10 teeth per inch. Okay, got to remember that.
It makes a difference.
It does.
Yeah.
So what kind of saws are we talking about using here?
Well, there are a few different options,
Okay.
each with its own strengths.
All right.
So first up, we've got the reciprocating saw, often called a sawzall.
Sawzall? Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, you've probably seen these. They're like the workhorses of demolition.
Yeah, they look heavy duty.
Oh, they are heavy duty. They're super versatile.
Okay.
You can use them for all sorts of demolition tasks.
Look what?
Cutting through nails, pipes, even small tree limbs if you need to.
Oh, wow.
The sawzall can handle it,
Why?
but they may not be the best choice if you need pinpoint accuracy.
Right, because sometimes you need something a little more delicate.
Exactly.
So what do we use then?
That's where the jigsaw comes in.
The jigsaw.
Yeah, think of it as like the scalpel of the sawing world.
Yeah.
Really precise cuts,
Uh-huh.
especially on flatter surfaces. They might not be as powerful as a reciprocating saw,
Right.
but you get a lot more control.
So if I'm working on something delicate like cutting shapes in thin metal,
That's your tool.
jigsaw.
Jigsaw.
Got it.
Exactly.
What about the good old-fashioned hacksaw?
Ah, the trusty hacksaw.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong there.
Every toolbox should have one.
Absolutely. They're simple,
Affordable.
effective.
And they always get the job done.
Yeah. No need for electricity or batteries or anything like that.
Right. Just good old-fashioned elbow grease.
Exactly.
So we've got our reciprocating saw, our jigsaw, our hacksaw.
And there's one more that might surprise you.
Oh, what's that?
The keyhole saw.
The keyhole saw.
Yeah, have you ever used one of those?
I've heard of them, but I've never actually used one.
They're really interesting.
Okay.
They're made for those really tight spaces
Okay.
where you don't have a lot of room to work around the fastener.
It's a very specific use case.
Very specific, like imagine trying to remove a piece of trim that's nailed in really tight against a wall. Okay, I get it.
That's where the keyhole saw comes in.
Because of the shape.
Exactly. It's got that unique shape that tapers to a point. Makes it perfect for those tight spots.
So it's all about access.
Access is key.
Having the right tool for the job.
Absolutely.
So we've covered the finesse of snipping, the
Yes.
power of sawing,
Oh, yeah.
which brings us to our final category, grinding.
All right, grinding.
This sounds like we are really stepping up the intensity.
It's about to get a little more powerful.
Time to break out the safety goggles.
Definitely recommend it.
Okay, so we talked about snipping, we talked about sawing,
Right.
and now we're on to grinding,
Now we're grinding.
which sounds like we're really, like I said, upping the intensity here.
Yeah, we're getting into heavy-duty territory. When
Yeah.
you really got to bring out the big guns.
So we're using friction to remove the metal.
That's right. Abrasive power tools.
Okay.
We're talking angle grinders, things like that.
Angle grinders.
Yeah, they're the real heavy hitters when it comes to grinding. Okay, when would you use an angle grinder?
Angle grinders are for the tough jobs, you know,
Okay.
rusted bolts, thick metal plates, things like that.
Things that just will not come out any other way.
Exactly. You're not going to get those out with a pair of pliers.
Right, okay, so with great power comes great responsibility.
Always.
So angle grinders, are we talking like danger zone here?
Well, you definitely need to be careful.
Okay.
Wear your safety glasses, wear your gloves. Even hearing protection is a good idea.
Yeah, because those things are loud.
They are loud.
And powerful.
Very powerful. So, treat them with respect.
Respect the tool.
Exactly.
Okay, so what if you're working on a project where maybe an angle grinder is a bit overkill,
Okay.
or you're in a tight space?
Right.
What do you do then?
That's where oscillating tools come in.
Oscillating tools.
Yep.
Those are different.
They're like the multi-tool of the grinding world.
Okay, how so?
You can use them for grinding. You can use them for sanding, cutting even.
Yes.
Yeah. And their size makes them a lot easier to control,
Okay.
especially in tight spaces.
So they're kind of like the Swiss Army knives of power tools.
That's a great way to put it. Plus, they often come with all sorts of different attachments.
Oh, that's handy.
Right. So you can switch from grinding to sanding to cutting just like that.
Very cool, very cool.
It's like having a whole toolbox in one.
So it sounds like when it comes to choosing the right tool,
Yes.
it's about more than just knowing what can cut through nails or screws.
It is.
It's about understanding which tool's the best fit for the job.
Absolutely. You want to work smarter, not harder, right?
Right. Always work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
So as we kind of wrap up here, any final thoughts for our listeners out there who are getting ready to tackle those projects with those stubborn fasteners?
Yeah, I would say before you even pick up a tool, just take a moment to really assess the situation.
Okay.
What kind of fastener are you dealing with? What's it made of? How much space do you have to work? Things like that.
So think before you act.
Exactly. And then remember those categories we talked about, snipping, sawing, grinding.
Right.
Each one has its place.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about covers it for this deep dive into the world of removing stubborn nails and screws.
I think so too.
Always good information to have on hand.
Always.
Until next time, happy demolishing, everyone.
See you next time.